Hi everyone, I'm Janine Limbak and I'm the last reporter sa Group 6. So my topic is all about the examples of groups and what are the group assessment tools in groups. So I have here the examples of groups. One is the primary group, the second is secondary group, and the small group. So first is the primary group. So what is primary group? So the primary group is this individual intimately interaction and cooperate over a long period. So interaction from the word intimately, di ba? So the primary group, it is refers to the social groups that are characterized by intimate, face-to-face, and continuous relationship. So, hindi siya napuputol. Continuous yung relationship nila. They usually have a strong importance in an individual's social life. So, it's belonging to primary groups and association with their members often shape our core social identity. So, we have here the examples of primary groups include the close family, the close friends, the cousins, the long-term church group, and we have also here the neighbors, even the neighbors. So yung primary groups is characterized by their size and composition. So the duration and forms of the relationship between its members also characterized by the primary group. So usually, di ba, the intimacy, sa primary group intimacy, the intimate, so the relationships between the members of the primary groups are personal and intimate. So, continuity, hindi siya napuputol. So, these relationships are supposed to be continuous or repeated in a long-term process or permanently. So, the members of the primary groups are not always chosen by the individual voluntarily. So, examples nito, yung mga primary groups can be the close family, the relatives, or one spouse's family, yung asawa nila, di ba? So, the primary group examples, yung mga close family. So, close family is one of the major examples of the primary groups. So, first degree relatives such as the parents or kapatid are members of primary groups and they have a permanent relationship. So, hindi napuputol yun kasi, kumbaga, continuity na yun kasi nga, yung connection nila is for long-term process na. And they have permanent nga, diba, relationship with an individual. So, while various cultures have different structures of nuclear families across different time periods. So, the intimate nature of interaction between parents and a child and one with their siblings are universally recognized. So, next, another example is the relatives, diba? Relatives are also called kin. Or also examples of the primary group. So, this category can include extended family and relatives from multiple generations. So, generation by generation, hindi siya napuputol. So, magkakamag-anak sila through blood, di ba? Who have interactions with an individual throughout their lives. So, next is the love relationship. Love relationship or the intimate partners, yung asawa natin, di ba, are main examples to the closest relationships of an individual, which often have an important impact on one's core sense of identity. Even though love relationships also can be short-term, long distance, or a casual, most common representations of them in media, literature, and popular culture often include long-term interaction which are the face-to-face and intimate, di ba? Then we have here also the spouse's family. So, an individual's partners or a spouse's parents and siblings can be also considered a part of their primary groups. So, in many cultures, common siya for spouses to treat each other's parents as a part of the close family. So, terms such as the mother-in-laws or daughter-in-laws, di ba, are also example of the socially significant roles that are attributed to one spouse's family in terms of being a part of one's fundamental relationships. So, another example is the close friends. So, an individual close friends are one of the main categories that are seen as primary groups. So, across different cultures, close friendships are characterized by intimate and face-to-face interactions that provide social and emotional support. So, sa mga individual close friend circle, it is assumed to be smaller than one's other friends and acquaintances. So, Next is the crisis and addiction support groups. So, ito na yung tinatawag na peer groups, peer support groups, diba? Which are formed to deal with crisis or addiction such as Alcoholics Anonymous, can be considered a primary group pero depending on its sizes. So, these groups are usually small and its members share intimate details of their lives with each other in order to receive and provide support. So, we have here also the faith community, faith or religious communities. So, it is referred to the communities that are individuals' local church. So, temple, the mosque, or any other worship area. So, depending on one's relationship with faith or religion, so nakadepende po kung ano yung mga religion ng bawat isa, so these communities can be considered a primary group also. So, long-term relationship of social and emotional support. So tulad nga ng sabi ko, the neighbors also is the one of the examples also of the primary group. So it is the key primary group examples together with friends, 'di ba? People who live in the same buildings or streets in close proximity, so malapit sa isa't isa for a long time often develop close relationships. So this relationship and interactions which are centered around support can qualify them as primary groups. Even the roommates, diba? Our roommates have close and supportive interaction. So, people who share the same room or house for several years. So, sa tagal ng panahon na magkasama sila or a longer time usually develop a close bond. Next is, another is the sororities and fraternities, diba? Our student organization in university. So, even in the North America, the Europe, and the Philippines. So, iba't ibang parts is merong mga fraternities and sororities na sinasabi, di ba? So, through sororities and fraternities, young adults who are often far away from their families band with each other and share the same living and studying environments for a period of several years. So, despite the temporary duration of close interaction with sororities and fraternities, members to these groups often shape the social identity and future networks of the individuals. So, the second example of the groups is the secondary group. So, when talks about the secondary group, it is a group that can be defined as a group of people which is organized for achieving a professional goal or to provide a service. So, individuals can join or leave these groups depending on the roles that they can perform. So, the secondary group, these are the individuals do not interact much, or the members of secondary group are less personal or emotional than those primary groups. So, sa primary groups nga is, di ba, intimate, so close relationships, closest interaction, the face-to-face. Itong secondary group is less personal, tsaka less emotional siya. Secondary group is a sociological concept also popularized by Charles Cooley, an American sociologist and the author of the book Social Organization nga, di ba? Tulad ng sinabi ko sa primary group. So, the secondary group are one of the most common types of social groups together with the primary groups. So, quick facts about the secondary group includes these are characterized by goal-oriented and impersonal relationship. Composed by diverse range of individuals, and they are sometimes referred to as professional associations. So, relationship and interactions between the members of the secondary group are often temporary. So, hindi siya continuous. So, by understanding the definition and function of the secondary groups are important as it allows us to understand social organization better. So, it also helps us to understand the ways in which the impacts of the primary group are supported and supplemented. So, merong mga characteristics ng secondary group. So, secondary group is often larger than primary groups, composed of a diverse group of people whose interactions are temporarily. So, hindi siya continuous. Di tulad ng primary is continuous, while the secondary group is temporary lang. Goal-oriented and impersonal, while the primary group is personal, di ba? So, in terms of size and composition, so the characteristics of the secondary groups can vary depende po sa situation. For example, musical choir composed of several dozens musicians would be considered a secondary group. So, corporation consisting of hundreds of thousands of employees can be categorized also as a secondary group. So, pareho po silang secondary group. So, the interaction within a secondary group is often temporarily lang po. While the duration can also vary depende po sa goal ng bawat grupo. For example, interactions among the members of a musical choir would last until their concerts are performed. So, yun lang, hanggang doon na lang. Pagkatapos ng musical choir na yun, na sa concert is medyo temporary lang yung nila. Temporary lang yung kanilang interaction kasi hanggang doon na lang sa concerts na yun, 'di ba? Nakikita. Interaction between the members of the same university cohort might last longer, up to multiple years, depende sa haba ng university program nila. So, mga secondary group examples, we have here the university cohorts. Ito yung mga group of students who are registered at the same university program during a particular academic years are considered a cohort. So, the main goal of a cohort members is to complete the educational program and achieve a university degree. So, which makes this group temporarily and goal-oriented. So, next is the classmates, di ba? Students who share the same classroom in a single course or in an educational program are considered classmates. So, ang interaction between the classmates are goal-oriented, direct towards achieving common academic goals. Depende sa course or program. So, the number of the students in a single class can exceed 100, which further contributes to the impersonal nature or relationship between them. Another example here is the companies and corporations. So, companies and corporations consist of groups of people who are gathered to conduct business and own financial profit. So, large corporations such as Apple or Amazon include hundreds of thousands of employees dyan, which make face-to-face contact between them impossible. So, next example of the secondary is the non-government organization. So, non-governmental organization, which are also called non-profit organization, so consists of groups of people who carry professional activities for a common cause. So, example nito yung mga non-profit causes include human rights, animal rights, and taking action against climate change. So, another example also is the co-workers, employees or co-workers in a business or organization who share the same working space may be a secondary group. So, relationship between co-workers are expected to be formal, professional, and temporary. Depende sa duration ng work of projects or employment. So, we have here also the example is the police department units. So, di ba? Sa mga police departments refer to the police and law enforcement authorities of a specific city, territory, or a state. So, another example is the political parties. Political parties consist of groups of people who organize to achieve shared political goals. So, depende sa case, sa number of political party, members can range from tens to thousands. So, interaction between political party members are often formal and hierarchical, depending on these members' roles within the groups. We have here also the small group. So, sa small group, it is small enough to allow all of its members to direct interact. So, in a small group, is typically one where the collection of people is small enough that all members of the group know each other and share simultaneous interactions such as the nuclear family, the dyad, or even the triad. When we talk about dyad, it is consists of two people. So, perhaps most cohesive of all groups because of its potential for very close and intense relationships. So, example nito yung mga married couple, di ba? Intense relationship, so dyad. So, it consists of two people. But, if one person withdraws, the group can no longer exist. So, we can think of a divorce, di ba? Divorce, which effectively ends the group of the married couple or the two best friends never speaking again. So, while in triad, it consists of three people. So, does not tend to be as cohesive and personal as dyad. So, ang dyad kasi it's usually intense. intense interactions, di ba? While the triad, it consists of three people. Um, the dynamic is quite different. So, if one person withdraws, so the groups lives on. So, nandyan pa rin yung tinatawag na groups kasi may natira pang dalawa. So, a triad has a different set of relationship. If there are three in the group, so two against one dynamics can develop and a majority opinion may form of any issue. So, in the small groups generally have strong internal cohesiveness and sense of connection. So, small groups may face challenges when trying to achieve a large goals. They can struggle to be heard or to be a force for change if they are pushing against larger groups. So, it is difficult to define exactly when when a small group becomes a large group. So perhaps it occurs when one group grows so large that there are too many people to join in a simultaneous discussion. So sometimes it occurs when a group joins with other groups as part of a movement. So these larger groups may share a geographic space such as the fraternity or the sorority on the same campus, or they might be spread out around the globe. So the larger the group, the more attention it can garner, and the more pressure members can put toward whatever goal they wish to achieve. At the same time, the larger the group becomes, the more the risk grows for division and lack of cohesion. It is talk about the quality versus the quantity, di ba? So we have here also the classifying of groups. So one is the social group. So what is social group? Social group is an exclusive self-organizing form of social organization. So it's comprised of two or more members who identify and interact with one another on a personal basis as individuals. So nature of relationship is like a natural group. Social group is a collection of individuals who share aims and routines, a sense of unity, and a common identity. So in social group, people regularly interact with one another on the basis of shared aims and identity. So it can be a family, a colleagues in a company, people living in a city district, a nation, and other similar collections. So a shared sense of belonging is an important feature of social groups. So when we talk about the social group, when two or more people interact with one another, share similar characteristics, and a collective have a sense of unity, they form a social group. So social groups have very different sizes and varieties. So sociologists differentiate between two categories. Yun nga ang sinasabi ko, yung social group is the primary group and the secondary group, di ba? The relationship are impersonal, and interaction and emotional bonding are weaker. So people in your college class are examples of like the secondary group, di ba? The primary group describe a small, a set of tight, long-lasting, direct, and intimate relationships. So in the social group examples, we have here a sociology class at the university, a family, a yoga club, a music band, colleagues in a corporate company, nation, an athletic team, association of business people, close friends, patron circles at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and New York. So, more examples like the animal rights organizations, the anime clubs, artist cooperatives, and many more. So, there are also the LGBT and plus support organization. So, we have a lots of examples of the social groups. So, we have here the key social groups explained. So, like the family, di ba? Family, it's a type of the primary group. So, it belongs to the social group. Family is a group of one or more parents and their children living together as a social and environment unit. So, like the sociology class at the university, it's one of the example of the secondary group. So, it belongs also to the social group. Student attend class in colleges and form of a social group with fellow students in those particular classes. So, maraming examples ang social groups. So, in social groups, in a conclusion of the social group, it is made up of two or more people who interact with one another within a set of patterns. So, its members have a sense of belonging and a common purpose. Yan po ang social group. So, they have common purposes, we have a sense of belonging. So they are interactions between them. Next is the natural groups. So natural groups, they are groups that come together spontaneously on the basis of naturally occurring events. So interpersonal attraction or the mutually needs of members. So examples is the families, the peer groups, the state gangs, cliques, friendship networks. So when we talks about natural groups, it come together in a spontaneous fashion on the basis of naturally occurring events, interpersonal attraction, or the mutually perceived needs of members. So next is the formed group. So when we talk about the formed group, it defined as those group that come together through some outside influence or intervention. So they usually some sponsorship or affiliation. Examples of the formed groups is the therapy groups, the encounter groups, the committees, and teams. So they are simply a group of people who have come together in an informal manner to achieve a particular goal. So they are come together through some outside influence or intervention. So they usually have a sponsor and a particular purposes. Then in-group and out-group. So when we talks about in-group are defined as those social groupings in which the individual feels at home. So the group shares some common interests, some shared expectation, and some norms which rendered behavior more predictable among group members. It's a social group toward the member feels respect and loyal. While the out-group it's defined as the social groupings in which the individual does not feel a sense of belonging. Talk about out-group, it is a social group toward a person feels a sense of competition or opposition based on the idea that we have valued traits they lack. Next is the task group. So what is task group? So task group here is formed and maintained so that specific activities or jobs can be accomplished. It is also referred to as work groups and designed to complete a job or to provide ongoing advice or monitoring. So when we talks about task group is it is a group of people who are brought together to do a particular job. So as groups include focus groups, the trigger groups, quality improvement groups, and social action groups, among others. So they can be formed internally to address an agency problem. Or they can be formed across organizations and entities as with a community coalition or delegation. Task group is focused on clients' needs to solve the problem as soon as possible. So the task group focus on discussion of a specific task, and in task group, the role are assigned often relating to ability or expertise. So the success is based on accomplishing the task or producing a product. The next is the treatment group. So when we talks about the treatment group, it is also referred to as small helping groups or the group work or the social group work. In social work, it is a method of intervention to help meet personal needs of its members. So the treatment group, also called the experimental group, so receives the treatment whose effect the researcher is interested in. So the treatment groups can have an educational focus that teaches participants about the condition or situation they are experiencing. So may focus on growth and learning new ways of behaving and thinking, and be therapeutic, focusing on trauma and dramatic life changes those members of the group are confronting. So the treatment groups has a purposes. So the treatment groups have purposes. Number one is to support. When we talks about support, it is to help members cope with stressful life events and revitalize existing coping abilities. So need ng support sa mga treatment groups. Then number two is the education, to educate through presentations, discussions, and experiences kung paano mo ma-educate, through presentation nga, the discussion and experiences. So, open-ended questions. Number 3 is the growth. To develop members' potential awareness and insights, kung ano ba yung mga insights nila sa bawat sa grupo, kasi in that particular group, they have the same problems and also the same treatments. It depends upon the situation. The next is the therapy, on how to change the behavior of that individual, like the corrections, rehabilitation, coping and problem solving through behavior change intervention. And the last one is the socialization. When we talk about socialization, it is to increase communication and social skills, improve interpersonal relationship through program activities, structured exercises, role plays, etc. So, when we say socialization, how to socialize, di ba? Para mas ma-express niya kung ano yung gusto niyang sabihin, kung ano yung mga problema pa niya na pwede niyang i-share sa others. Group assessment tools. So, what is group assessment tools? It involves the use of certain tools which facilitates the achievement of the workers' goals and objectives. It is also resources that social workers can use to gather information, assess clients' needs, and develop intervention plans. So, they provide a structured framework for conducting assessments and help ensure consistency and thoroughness in the social work practice. So, in group work assessment, they are tools that they use. So number 1 is the interview. So when we talk about the interview, it is designed to collect a richer source of information from a small number of people about their attributes, their behaviors, preferences, the feelings, attitudes, opinions, and knowledge. So, it helps explain better understanding and explore research subjects, opinions, behavior, the experiences, the phenomenon, and many more. So, in interview questions are usually open-ended questions so that on depth, so malalim na information will be collected. So, kailangan hindi lang interview na through phone kasi malay mo yung mga nai-interview mo is iba-iba yung iba-iba. So, mas maganda pag nag-i-interview kayo is kailangang face-to-face, di ba? So, interview, there are types. There are structured, the semi-structured, and the unstructured. So, when we talk about the structured, is also known as standardized interview. So, structured interviews are defined as research tools that are extremely rigid in their operations or allows very little or no scope of prompting the participants to obtain and analyze results. So, the following characteristics of a structured interview is quantitative in its approach, used in survey research, questions are pre-decided according to required detail of information, maintain uniformity throughout all interview sessions, can be close-ended as well as open-ended. Then it is focuses also on the accuracy of different responses. Then when we talk about semi-structured, the interviews offer a considerable amount of leeway to the researcher to probe the respondents along with maintaining basic interview structure. So the following characteristics of semi-structured interview helps the team to remain focused on the objectives of the analysis. So it is used to interview time efficiently while allowing interviewees the opportunity to address unforeseen issues. The interview questions are expressed in the format prepared by researchers, unlike the structured interview, di ba? That it is reliable qualitative data can be collected via these interviews. In unstructured interview, it is also called as in-depth interview. So, ibig sabihin, pinakamalalim So unstructured interviews are usually described as conversation held with a purpose in mind to gather data about the research study. So ang characteristics nito have the least number of questions, more like normal conversation but with a underlying subject. So help researchers build a bond with the respondents to increase the respondents' truthfulness. So, no guidelines for researchers to follow. So, participants can clarify all their doubts about the questions. When you are designing interview questions, so number one is you think about who will you interview. Think about what kind of information you want to obtain from interviews, and think about why you want to pursue in-depth information around your research topic. When you are designing interview questions, so number one is you think about who will you interview. Think about what kind of information you want to obtain from interviews, and think about why you want to pursue in-depth information around your research topic. When you are developing an interview guide, you need to introduce yourself. Syempre, number one is introduce yourself and explain the aim of the interview. So number two is devise your question. So interviewees can help answer your question, your research question. Then next is have a sequence to your questions or topics by grouping them in themes. So number four is make sure you can easily move back and forth between questions or topics. Then number five, make sure your questions are clear and easy to understand. And the last one is do not ask leading questions. There are also the advantage and disadvantage in interviews. So, the interview's advantage is excellent for the in-depth testing of research hypotheses and insights into the psyche of buyers, and access to qualitative data and the ability to explore and probe responses. While the disadvantages of the interview is expensive and time-consuming, the respondents may be reluctant to share personal beliefs and information, possibility of interviewer biases, and rarely yields useful quantitative data. The research tool, so when we talk about the research tool, it is a tool used to measure a variable or to collect the information needed to answer a research question. So carefully selection of data collection tools can help the researcher achieve goals and save time. When it comes to research tools kasi, meron ginagamit na mga tools usually yun yung observation, the questionnaire also, kasama ho siya sa research tools at saka ang interview. So, in terms of research, so it's a proper study regarding a specific topic or concern using specific methods. In order to analyze and observe event, so inductive methods of research are used. So the inductive methods are related to the qualitative, while the deductive methods it is related to the quantitative research. We use the observation and research tools because it's collecting data is one of the most important components of research. So, good data plays a significant role in gaining insight on the existing problem or opportunity. So, lack of good data limits the effectiveness of other data tools. So, data is vital, very vital po siya in every step of the entire process. So, next is we're conducting also the interview. So, it is particularly useful for uncovering the story behind a participant's experience and pursuing in-depth information around the topic. So, masyadong kailangan yung pag-i-interview is very malalim. So, kung ano yung pinagmulan hanggang sa pinaka-end, kailangan pong alamin. When it comes to research, kailangan malalim na malalim talaga ang gagawin mong research. Hindi lang yun, kung ano lang yung nakikita mo na observation, wag ka lang mag-focus doon. The next is, sa research tools, kailangan din ng mga questionnaires kasi ito yung main instrument para makakollect ng data. Gaya ng mga survey research, di ba? So, no survey can achieve success without a well-designed questionnaire. Kailangan may mga questions ka regarding dyan sa research mo, pero kailangan yung mga questionnaires na ginagamit mo is naiintindihan ng mga respondents. So, when you do research, there are various characteristics. So, number one, yung precise ng data, systematic approach, may mga rules and procedures, sa mga goals mo. So, ang kailangan yung mga researchers must practice ethics and code of conducts when making observation or conclusion. So, mahalaga po talaga siya. Isa sa mga research tools is the observation. Next is research depends on sensible thinking, which include inductive and deductive methods. Yun na nga, pumapasok si deductive and deductive. Inductive is a method related to the qualitative. So, for the verification naman ng observed event, so the deductive method yung magagamit. So, deductive methods are related to the quantitative research. So, remember that inductive is the qualitative and the deductive is the quantitative, yung dami. Yung inductive is the quality. So, next is the information or knowledge. Kailangan yung information mo or yung knowledge is malawak. Syempre, from the actual observation mo in the natural settings in real time. So, next is in-depth analysis. Kailangan malalim yung analysis mo sa data na ginagawa mong data collected mo, so that there are no discrepancies. So, research creates a way to generate new questions. So, may mga questions nga. Yun na yung another is the questionnaire. So, questionnaire is part also of the research tools. So, the data which is existing supports to create more research opportunities. So, usually ginagawa nila yung mga survey questions sa mga pag nagkakandak sila ng research. So, in nature, research is analytical. So, analytical yung pag gumagawa ka ng research. So, it uses all available data so that the inference is not ambiguous. So, we have here also the types of research. So, may mga types ng research din. Iba-iba. There are basic research, the problem-solving research, the problem-oriented research, or the applied research, the qualitative research, the quantitative research. So, iba-ibang mga research ito. So, ang basic research kasi usually, data collected to improve knowledge is a basic research definition. So, ang knowledge nito kailangan expand. So, may mga core motivation. Sa problem solving naman, directed by organizations to comprehend and resolve their own issues. So, when problem-oriented research naman is, as the name recommends, so problem-oriented research is led to comprehend the specific idea of an issue to discover applicable arrangement. So, applied research is emphasizes on analysis and solutions to real-life issues. Yung qualitative research, is a process which is related to the inquiry. So, inquiry, di ba? It helps to create a thorough understanding of problems or problem in their nature, natural language. So, ang qualitative research is a non-statistical method. While the quantitative research naman is an organized method of gathering information and examining it to make determination. So, quantitative data is related to the numbers, di ba? Next is the questionnaire. Actually, the questionnaire is part of the research tools, together with the interview and the observation. So, when you were doing research tools kasi, kailangan may mga questionnaires ka na ginagawa. So, when we say that questionnaire, it is a research instrument consisting of a series of questions for the purpose of gathering information from respondents. So, ang questionnaire, it is a kind of inquiry which has many uses. So, marami siyang gamit. So, when you are formulating a questionnaire, so, we know that questionnaire is a technique for collecting data in which respondent provides answers to a series of a question. So, when you are developing a questionnaire, you need to take a step-by-step approach. You can come up with an effective means to collect data that will answer your unique research question. When you're doing questionnaire, you have you need to set a purpose. So, in the first phase, you need to identify the goal of your questionnaire, kung ano yung goal ng questionnaire mo, and ask questions about the kind of information that provided. So, the research main objective and determine if it is the best way to collect information. So, you need to prepare about your questionnaire. So, may marami kasing types ng mga questionnaires. So, itong mga question types like the dichotomous question. So, yung dichotomous question kasi, quickest and simple questions to analyze but not highly sensitive measure. So, ito yung mga tinatawag na yes or no or agree or disagree question. While the open-ended question, ito na yung mga respondents na sumasagot ng questions in their own words, sa kanilang words. So, analysis of data through these types of question is challenging. Multiple choices question. So, these questions allow for easy analysis of results but may not give the respondent the answer they want. Rank order. So, ito na yung rank order, yung mga scale question. So, this question asks the respondent to rank items or choose items in a particular order from a set. So, ranking, di ba? Kung halimbawa, irarank nila from low to pinakamababa sa pinakamataas or pinakamataas hanggang sa pinakamababa. While the rating scale question, these questions allow the respondent to assess a particular issue based on a given dimension. When you're doing a questionnaire, so kailangan yung questions mo is clear, concise, tapos direct siya, to ensure that you get the best possible answer from your respondent. So, yung haba niya, keep your questionnaire as short as possible kasi usually mga respondents tamad silang magbasa. So, as best as you can makaya siya ng maikli lang, na maintindihan naman ng mga respondents mo, di ba? Then, the next is the demography. Identify your target demographic. The next is the privacy. Ensure you can protect the privacy of your respondents. So, constructing of the first draft. So, you need to introduce yourself. Ay clarify mo kung ano yung trabaho or ano yung part mo sa team, bakit may mga questionnaire, para saan yun. Including the name of the, kung ano yung, including the name of you as a worker. So, bakit ka nagko-collect ng mga data na ganyan, para saan yung goal mo. So, explain mo yung questionnaire, kung para saan yun. So, tell the respondents what will happen with the data you collect. Explain mo sa kanila kung saan mapupunta yung mga ginagawa mong questionnaires para sagutan nila. So, to get you more complete questionnaires, in the end, you should provide the respondents with estimated time to answer the question. So, wag mo silang i-pressure kung ano oras sila mapatapos. Kasi syempre, kailangan may pabasa sa kanila yung questionnaire mo. Lastly is the guidelines. So, it is a critical component of the professional social workers toolkit. So, they are useful for both new and experienced practitioners and can be effective advocacy tools. So, sa social group work, di ba? It is a method of social work and it helps individuals to adapt with their problems and environment through learning, changing behavior, and improving skills to cope with dynamic demands of life. So, merong mga few guidelines dito na nagagamit usually. First is to establish the purpose of the group work. So, the purpose of the group work can be educating the participants, healing emotional or behavioral problems. They need to sharing information, so skill building or providing support. So, the leader can plan multi-purpose group as per the need of the clients and directions of the agencies. So, second is lay down the process. So, a well-planned group would be having well-sequenced action plans. So, starting from the introduction to the final remarks. So, these action plans can be flexible enough to accommodate the views of participants. So, skilled group worker would ensure the outcome of group work as planned. So, the third is list out the required resources. Yung magagamit ng mga resources can be materials and manpower. For a successful group, charting and arranging the required resources would save the time and ensure the active engagement of members in group. So, ang major resources of the group work is a well-ventilated space or sitting arrangement with less distraction. So, fourth is to mobilize the resources. So, agencies and institutes are ready to provide space to conduct group work. Since social workers' goals are aligned with the goals of the institute, so sometimes yung mga agencies with limited resources might look forward to mobilize resources by the group worker. So, next is to fix selection criteria for recruiting the participants. So, Yung mga homogeneous background of the participants would smoothen the group interaction and dynamics. Yung example nito, yung may mga problems experience among the youth at sa mga matatanda from the same community, but not maybe always same always. So, similarly, people who belong to a different social strata may have their own unique issues. Next is prepare a format for process record. So, when yung format of process record may vary from institute to institute, but essence of the report is almost same among various organizations. Yung recording the process would help group workers to gain insight and plan effectively for future sessions. So, next is recruit the participants ideally. So, syempre, 8 to 12 participants when it comes to group. So, participants for the group work are selected based on the purpose of the group. So, recommendations by the hosting agency and referrals by the co-professionals or external agencies. Next is share the objectives of group with participants. So, declared objectives of group work will empower participants to opt for the group work service or out of the service. So, group workers can advertise the session plan in advance among potential service users and referral sources. So, next is proceed with process plan. So, kailangan ng action plan or process plan para ma-develop yung ano yung objectives ng group work na ginagawa nyo. So, while designing sa mga plano, one would keep in mind that the background of the participant and time available. So, it is important yung plano and proceed to complete the cycle of group work sessions. Next is reflection of the outcome. So sa mga group work is also planned for achieving outcome and desirable time duration. So group worker has to help group members to reflect the outcome of the session and outcome from a cluster of sessions to give a feel of growth and change. So katulad na lamang ng mga experiences, help participants to motivate para ma-motivate sila themselves to continue the participation in group work. And next is the evaluation. Paano mag-evaluate? So, it is a chance to look into the process outcome to ensure the goals are achieved as planned. Kung na-achieve ba yung plano mo, 'di ba? Evaluate mo yung ginagawa nyong as a group. So, feedback given by the participants. So, yung feedback, yung observation by the made by the facilitator can be used to evaluate the efficacy of the group qualitatively. So, next is when to terminate. So, group work sessions can be terminated after achieving the objectives of the group or after completion of one cycle of training. So, choice of termination is there for both facilitator and your client. So, ideally, agency has to have a policy on termination process of group work. So that ends my report. I hope so na meron po kayo naintindihan sa aking report. Maraming salamat po sa pagkikinig.